features various god characters who've come to Earth to mingle with humans, each leading a retinue.
It is a fun little way to tie up a narrative when I shit on something early on in the stream, completely randomly, and then I'm proven by a totally different YouTuber's YouTube video essay that spans over 2 hours, and in the 1 hour and 18th minute, he ends up basically proving exactly what I was talking about. That is wrong with fucking anime. Incredible.
With adventurers who explore a dungeon and fight monsters or something. The main character is the sole follower of anime Hestia there, and she's in love with him and gets jealous when he talks to other women. That's their deal. Character design wise, anime Hestia is pretty basic, I think it's fair to say. Women, that's their deal. Follower of explore a dungeon, and she's in love with him and gets jealous when he... I think it's fair to say. Her clothes are a bit torn at the edges there, she's got some ribbons. That's about it. Well, actually, the fan wiki for Danmachi points out that she's also known for having large breasts. Really pushing the boat out there in terms of anime girl design, aren't they? Breaking new ground. And what does her design have to do with the Greek Hestia, really? She's supposed to be the elder sibling of Zeus, but he appears in Danmachi as an older man with a grey beard. So why is anime Hestia designed like this? He asks, facetiously. Well, for reasons of fan service, obviously. The fans of this sort of thing are a bunch of horny little goblins, and this design is saying, do not worry, horny little goblins, this product was made with you as the target audience. Which, you know, whatever, I'm not going to shame the horny little goblins, they can like whatever they like. What I would impress upon them though is that when you see a character design that was not created with your particular brand of juvenile horniness as its prime consideration, that doesn't mean it was a mistake. In fact, it was almost certainly not a mistake. Hestia from Hades 2 is a really bad design if the target audience is anime perverts whose favourite character is nicknamed Lolly Big Boobs. But it isn't, thank God. Hestia from Hades 2 had a rather different design brief, I would imagine. The third bullshit Hades 2 discourse cycle I'll talk about today is the most interesting and relevant for us and has to do with Aphrodite, who is of course the ancient Greek goddess of love and fertility. Like the other characters, Aphrodite's design reflects her personality and role in the story. It has a lot of love hearts and roses, she's a conventionally beautiful woman whose gameplay power is to weaken and charm enemies so they either do less damage to you or they fight on your side. So she's seductive and charming. Character design again. She is also, you might have noticed, almost completely naked. So, almost completely naked, conventionally attractive lady. This is exactly what the anti-woke Outrage gamers claim to want to see. So you'd imagine they'd be pretty happy about this design, right? Well, on April 19th, Kotaku published an article written by Alyssa Mercante entitled Hades 2 is the kind of hot we need right now, which praised
that dumbass chatter who doesn't know what reactionary is, the word itself, is about to learn exactly what reactionary as a political method looks like. Okay, it's not about reacting to something or just reacting to anything or how you react to certain things at all. It's this.
Praises Hades 2 for the diversity and depth of its character designs. And now this article caught some flack from the sad gamer men by making comparisons between the characters of Hades 2 and Eve from Stellar Blade. The article calls Eve's design bland by comparison to the Hades characters, which is of course entirely correct. Now it should be noted here that the complaint about the character design is not solely about looks. It's not how Eve looks, it's that it doesn't suit her character or role in the story for her to look the way she does. Whereas it does suit Aphrodite's personality and her role in the story for her to look the way she does. This was always the point being made with regards to Eve from Stellar Blade, by the way. If all you have is the looks, but there's no character there backing that up, it's boring. That's the problem with Eve's design. It's not that she's hot, it's that she's boring. Of course,
I completely agree with you, but coming out of the gate swinging it hard at those guys just affirms they'll never see your perspective. Nah, dude. Sometimes you need... Dude, that's what being a fucking man is, alright? Big dog, sometimes you gotta fucking learn cold hard truths, okay? Maybe you just need to be yelled at a little bit. A lot of these guys have not had any sort of tough love from their parental figures, okay? No daddies in their lives, okay? Sometimes you need a man to tell you to fucking man the fuck up, nut up or shut up, okay? And to stop being a fucking pussy. If you're chirping about something that you are completely wrong on, okay, in terms of like aesthetic choices that a video game designer has made in the second iteration of a franchise that many people are not going to even play, okay, And if you think that that is the guiding principle, if that's your fucking North Star, and that is the reason that microaggression is the reason why your entire worldview has fallen apart and you have found yourself in the throes of reactionary sentiment, sometimes you need to hear from, an older male figure that you are being a fucking pussy. And here, I'll take it one step further. That's what Andrew Tate and the like do all the time, for the record. They do that all the time. They tell people to stop being a pussy. They just tell them in the wrong direction. Okay? They'll tell you, like, stop being a pussy and start grabbing pussies. So why are men so responsive to someone like Andrew Tate saying that, but not responsive to someone like myself? And also, I think you're arguing for a man that doesn't exist. This is a made-up person.
The outrage merchants missed this point either on purpose or out of ignorance and made a whole bunch of videos highlighting the supposed hypocrisy, or hypocrisy even, of Kotaku saying that one of these designs was good and the other was bad. But I'm not all that interested in that point. They're just obviously responding to an argument that wasn't actually made. What I'm interested in here is that these videos gave the opportunity for the video makers to comment on Aphrodite's design.
So this whole time, the lefties didn't take an issue with fan service or the male gaze. They just wanted all the male gaze to be towards queer characters, queer identity, and what they find attractive.
I feel like there's a little bit of hypocrisy going on right here. Is it because Hephaestus is fat and disabled and checks off all the echo boxes? Is it because this person has a pointy-ass Pinocchio nose?
We got our female characters with a manly jawline. We got Aphrodite with a masculine face and masculine features.
It's a manly face. It's probably a trans woman.
You know what they call T-coded, like transcoded, T-coded? That's what I get from that. It's like a T-coded design.
It's like
But you shouldn't know that. If you're like, why do you know that term? Why? It's weird that you know that term. If you're not trans and you don't have any trans friends and you invest this much fucking time and effort and energy into like being transphobic, it's weird. Like, what the fuck?
Feminine body, masculine, vaguely.
the face is
ambiguous
androgynous.
Yeah.
Androgynous.
Androgynous, yeah.
Those are some reactions to Aphrodite's design from both Hades 1 and 2 there. Around this time, Mark Kern shared an attempt to fix Aphrodite's Hades 1 design on Twitter, a picture which removes her prominent cheekbones, makes her thinner, thins her eyebrows, and so on. And Kern says, removing the man face makes a huge difference, but wokies don't get excited unless a character looks trans.
What does this motherfucker look like? Someone show me a goddamn picture of this motherfucker. What's his government name again? I need to show. I need to. I've seen it before. I just need to. He looks like his avatar. Yeah, Mark Kern, right? That's his name. Bro, that's in 2011, dog. This is what he used to look like in 2011. He doesn't look like that anymore. He looks way worse now. Okay? This photo has aged so much that Mark Kern would jerk off to a artistic depiction of it. Okay? I'm saying he likes lolly. Don't misunderstand me. Yeah. Peak Western masculinity guy. Grums isn't happy he got made fun of. He posted this 3 hours ago. I'm the one that prevented a boycott of Stellar Blade. I'm on multiple videos and posts that show me telling people not to boycott, instead buy and support the game. Never harass the devs. What? Yeah, he owes child support as well. I can't believe someone fucked him. Married 20 years, never divorced, wife and happy kids, but thanks for showing who is spreading the real disinformation. And yeah, he did harass the devs because they tweaked one fucking article of clothing a little bit in a game where you could just straight up be naked. Out of like 300 different items of clothing that you could change, they changed the bunny suit a little bit. They added like a lace bra, and he fucking lost his mind. Was it confirmed he was a titty milk thief at Blizzard? No, it was not confirmed. I think people understandably draw that conclusion when they see him, though, and the way that he, presents himself online. Like, nothing weirder than this fucking dude constantly chirping about like how certain imaginary depictions of women are not fuckable enough for him.
So I have a few things to say about this. Firstly, you might be tempted to see all this as simple knee-jerk contrarianism, right? Since a Kotaku journalist praised Aphrodite's design, they now have to dislike the design on principle. And I'm sure that's part of it. But I also do think that the inclusion of a more diverse range of body types really does alter their perception of the character designs that in other contexts would more usually appeal to them. The problem is, as the Kotaku article points out, variety and choice. You see, it's not enough for the anti-woke gamer types for a game to have something that appeals to them. The game needs to only have things that appeal to them, exclusively. If it's got something else, it's almost like it cancels out. Just as they take objectification and the lack of diversity as a sign the product is for them, the presence of diversity, variety, and choice is a sign which says to them, this was not made for you. So the inclusion of character designs like Hephaestus and Hestia really does alter their perception of Aphrodite. They now second-guess themselves with regards to her design. They can't trust the developers anymore to solely pander to them. So even this very feminine design of a conventionally beautiful naked lady reads as masculine and ugly to them. Of course, if all the characters were conventionally attractive naked ladies, they'd think the game was great, but it really does have to be all, not just some. It's not that their tastes are not included here, they are, it's that they've excluded themselves. As a side note here, one surprising thing I saw watching videos about this were some people who appeared to be confused about the Hades series going woke.
Did these guys read the dialogues from the first game, or did they just keep hitting everything they saw in front of them? Hades has been queer as F since the first game. I played the first game quite a bit. I got close to beating it, put in probably a dozen hours, talked to all the side characters. I really enjoyed the first game despite its shortcomings. And yet I didn't get this whole super queer LGBT
You didn't think Hades 1 was queer? That's insane. Horseshoe theory is real? Well, I didn't like the Joker. 33 minutes. EFAB responding to Jay Nicholson's "Well, I didn't like the Joker." 11 hours and 44 minutes. Ben Shapiro versus 25 Kamala Harris and George. 3 hours and 25 minutes. Yep, that is the horseshoe theory.
Alphabet Mafia vibe. Apparently I wasn't paying attention.
What do you mean you didn't get queer vibes from Hades? It's Greek for a start. The main character's bisexual. There's a whole gay romance story about reuniting Achilles and Patroclus. The character Chaos is genderless. You can start a polyamorous relationship. No, you weren't paying attention. Anyway, back to fixing Aphrodite's design. Similar to fixing Aloy's design.
He didn't even need to go that far. All you needed to do was just show the character designs and be like, yeah, you think this game isn't queer? You fucking idiot.
There's a problem here, isn't there?
Goddamn donkey, you fucking baboon.
to do with the categorization of certain facial features, prominent cheekbones and jawlines and so on, as necessarily masculine. So just for the anti-woke gamer boys today, I'm going to introduce a new video feature, which I'm sure is going to be a big hit. Okay, let's play. Let's look at some women. And here are the women we're going to be looking at today. Olivia Wilde, Liv Tyler, Angelina Jolie, Keira Knightley. Some women there. I hope you see my point here. Also, those aren't random women, obviously. They are famous celebrities, commonly cited as being among the most attractive people on the planet. It's kind of sad that my version of a reality check for the gamer guys is showing them Hollywood celebrities, isn't it? I think if they went for a walk in a public park, their heads would probably explode. Also, there's a further disturbing tendency here, which is the conflation of certain...
Yeah, you would have been like... They'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, this is Unreal Engine 5 has ruined the world. The character development here is too realistic. I don't like it. I don't like the way that these women look, you know, some of them even have like a little bit of peach fuzz on their cheeks. I hate that.
Common adult facial features with common masculine facial features, and then using that designation to brand adult women who have those features as unfeminine or ugly, when no, some women have prominent cheekbones, prominent jawlines. There is nothing necessarily gendered or even to do with attractiveness about those features. The problem with Hades 2, of course, is choice. It's diversity. It's that there is more than just the one thing on offer. And this answers my question about Baldur's Gate 3 from earlier, by the way, because while yes, in that game you can play a straight-down-the-line heterosexual cisgender man and pursue a relationship with a conventionally...
I think the funniest thing, Trump one dumbass cry about it. I know, I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm very excited at your dropshipping business falling apart, collapsing. You know, when the tariffs kick in. Listen, dog. My merchandise is made in the United States of America with union hands, okay? I don't think Trump supporters can say the same about whatever fucking Trump merchandise they sell in their Trump stores.
Attractive woman, you have to select that option. You have to be involved in the process to declare your own desires. You have to press 1 for English, basically. The anti-woke gamer men we're talking about today don't want that. They don't want to be a part of diversity. They want to be separate from and superior to it. Again, we're talking less about sex or sexuality and more about who media is being made for. For the anti-woke crowd, this is what is actually attractive about Stellar Blade. It's not the sex, because there isn't any, and it's not the romance, because there isn't any, and it's not even the sexualization, really, in isolation, because they will turn on a game with sexualized characters if they perceive it to be too diverse or inclusive. It's the lack of diversity and the objectification. It's a fine line between definitions here, but there are certain conservatives who dislike sex and sexuality in media because they view it as a kind of modern moral degeneracy, but they do like the objectification of women because that reinforces a conservative hierarchy. And this objectification doesn't necessarily mean sexualizing women in the way you might expect. In fact, it can even come in the form of the desexualization of women. Less important than the sexualization itself is that women do not have agency, that they are there to be objects acted upon by men. And just as this can take the form of telling women to get their tits out, it can also take the form of telling women to cover up and be ashamed. These are just two sides of the same coin, really. The important thing is that women are being told what to do, and not choosing for themselves. So women should conform to certain beauty standards, but in an automatic and unconscious sort of way, because the conscious choosing of those standards requires women to have a level of agency that socially conservative men find unacceptable. And Eve is perfect here, of course, because while she looks like a bikini model, she has absolutely zero idea that she does. She and the rest of Stellar Blade's female characters didn't choose to look the way they do, they just look like that, for zero in-universe reason. And the socially conservative gamers took this to be a political statement on behalf of the game's developers. Stellar Blade must be intentionally on our side, they thought, deliberately championing our cause. It must be making a political point with its scantily clad ladies. Now, just to clarify here, it isn't. Stellar Blade makes zero intentional statements about real-world society or politics, and certainly doesn't offer any opinions about silly culture war nonsense. As far as I can tell, Eve is designed the way she is because her designers like looking at bikini ladies, and they didn't really think about it harder than that. Eve's design certainly doesn't seem to be intended as any sort of intentional cultural statement. Nevertheless, in the run-up to Stellar Blade's release, the Gamergate remnants went to lengths to try to divine this intention from the game's marketing and social media posts. For example, about a week before Stellar Blade came out on the 21st of April, the Stellar Blade account on Twitter posted, "Stellar Blade offers the same uncensored version in all countries, including the Japanese version." And then they posted the same message in Japanese. Now, seeing this in isolation, you might assume it to be a message intended to assure prospective Japanese buyers of the game that the version of Stellar Blade released in their country was not going to be censored. You see, you might know that Japan's Computer Entertainment Rating Organization is relatively strict on new game releases compared to ratings agencies in other countries. For example, they censored some of the violence and sexual content in The Last of Us Part 2, and they've previously refused to issue ratings to games that feature violent content, like Dead Space and the Callisto Protocol, to name a couple of examples. So this tweet was clearly intended to dispel worries that their Japanese audience might have about receiving a censored product, you might think. But no, it turns out this tweet wasn't about that. It was actually Stellar Blade giving a middle finger to the woke. That's right, just before the game releases, there's barely enough time to squeeze in one more discourse cycle about Stellar Blade versus the woke mob. Stellar Blade uncensored worldwide, Shift Up announces amidst puritanical and feminist criticism. Stellar Blade scores massive win against the woke. Game will be uncensored for the entire world. I can't be censored, says Eve. I like this video thumbnail, which has Eve flipping off the other person.
Two things that are consistent in all of the criticisms. Number one, it's almost always about controlling women's bodies and enforcing that mechanism of control, which they feel is lost in their immediate lives. Women are the, arch enemy. They've refused to have sex with them. Women have refused to have sex with these fucking losers, and therefore all of society's problems can be attributed to that. So we must go back to a traditional way of existence, a traditional mode of existence. Hasan, thank you for this. I struggle to understand your non-political content, but I see how such trivial things like a person shitting needlessly on a video game character stems from a larger societal problems that can also be casually reinforced, like toxic masculinity in an online space, is really eye-opening. Hell yeah, chatter. I'm glad you're recognizing that. This is why, yes, everything can be political. But like I said, it's about controlling women's bodies and like maintaining that they are objects of desire, or making sure that they are more modest in their appearance if they choose to see fit. It's more about taking away that bodily autonomy from a woman. And then number two is just an endless well of stupidity. Okay. Every single point that Sean in this video touches on stems from a made-up hysteria. This is why I always yell at reactionaries. This is why I always yell at right-wingers in general, conservatives in general, because they make up false narratives and then they get angry at that false narrative that they made up. And instead of just like, I don't know, scratching the surface a little bit, engaging in a little bit of self-reflection, they refuse to do so and look for more people and more content that corresponds to their biases. They just genuinely, deliberately look for more false narratives that give them comfort. And it's ironic because these are the same guys in the Gamergate era that used to claim that the left is in an echo chamber. And they still kind of do that. I will never understand why someone will go out of their way to look at a false narrative, recognize and get so close to understanding its falsehood, and refuse to interrogate it. I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. I don't know why people would rather, instead of facing cold, hard truths, refuse to do so and make themselves dumber as a consequence of that.
There, someone who I guess we're supposed to infer is a woke person who really wants Stellar Blade to be censored. Can you believe these sorts of video thumbnails are still being pumped out, by the way? I saw a channel while making this video that was created 3 years ago and has 2,500 videos on it. That is multiple per day, and all of them are exactly the same, and all of them have thumbnails like this.
Like, I am entirely too insecure, but I feel like it's a healthy dose of insecurity that I routinely worry that I might get something wrong. And I try to make sure that I have a decent enough understanding before broaching a subject matter. And sometimes I still end up getting things wrong. I talk for 8 to 10 hours a day, and I immediately apologize for it if I do. This is why I hate when people say, "Oh, you're backtracking." It's like, no. It's not backtracking, and it's not something that should be punishable either. It's something that should be welcomed. When you get new information that actually goes against what you have previously thought was the way things are, you reconsider the way, the ways in which you arrived at that conclusion. It's called growth. It is not a vice, it's a virtue. And yet many people present it as a vice. I don't like that society also rewards people who double down.
You know, with all these stock woke stand-in characters they've been using for 10 years now. Can you imagine making multiple of these a day? Forever. It's like a horrible recursive nightmare. Anyway, this rather generous extrapolation of the tweet about censorship cemented Stellar Blade's reputation as the anti-woke flagship game of the moment. Stellar Blade is refusing to be censored. It's taking a stand against the woke. It's going to take us back to the past and make video games great again. Now, unfortunately, something happened to interrupt this rather premature victory lap. Stellar Blade came out. Oh no. What's this? Stellar Blade censored on day one? Gamers are pissed? Stellar Blade censored now? They betrayed us? PSN accounts cancelled over Stellar Blade censorship?
This was what broke my mind about Gamergate 2.0 narratives. Like, I did some videos on this, and at the time, many people were like, "Oh, Hasan, why do you care about this? Who cares? It's inconsequential." It was a representation of a much larger problem, okay? That's why I was like losing my mind over it.
Well now, what's happened here then? Let's go to our reporter live on the scene, Mark Kern, and see if we can figure out what's going on. More rumours coming in about Stellar Blade as the situation is organic. People are reporting that these outfit nerfs were weeks before the day one patch. There's speculation that the more risque versions of the outfits may be New Game Plus unlocks, but there is no confirmation yet. Taking down the Stellar Blade outfit post until I can get more confirmation. Stellar Blade needs to release a statement now. I'm waiting for more confirmation tonight/tomorrow. Thinking is better than reacting. Took down my tag post of Stellar Blade. Let's see what happens tomorrow. As more information comes to light, I'm taking down my tweet about should I buy Stellar Blade.
Again, 56-year-old man, by the way, 56-year-old man. I just want to remind people how 56 years old he is.
Until I see full confirmations tomorrow. One thing to be aware of is that there are people who want Stellar Blade to fail. There can and will be misinformation posted, so we should all be vigilant. They want those pre-orders cancelled. And as I've pointed out before, in corporate warfare,
like, not only do they make up this conspiracy that everyone is against Stellar Blade, they're now doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on said conspiracy that, like, in fact, definitely does exist, I promise you, and we have to combat against it. This way of thinking is the most Reddit way of thinking imaginable. It's something that I see quite frequently, perhaps most frequently on Reddit. Reddit has this way, I've addressed this before, right? Oftentimes, you'll see something that is objectively untrue on a subreddit, right? A commenter will make a statement that is objectively untrue. And instead of addressing whether or not this statement is true or not, people will then engage in jokes as a way to reaffirm the truth of the thing that is objectively false. They'll double down, triple down, and create entire worlds off of this false premise. It's a very strange thing. And yet it happens all the time. It happens on TikTok as well. But the reason why I'm using Reddit is because like LSF, for example, is a great example of this. Just a genuinely false thing can be brigaded into oblivion. And instead of people examining what the actual truth of the matter is, like the apocalypse situation, instead of examining where this is coming from, people would rather start assuming that that falsehood is real and then launch additional jokes off of that underlying false premise. Very strange. I think it's a cycle of reinforcement that occurs. And Reddit is the best example of this because there is this like Bill Maher style smugness associated with Redditors usually, right? Where they feel confident. They feel like they have arrived at a truth that other people were not aware of. And now they're making jokes about that because they're so superior. When in fact, most people would look at that and go, what the fuck are you talking about? You're wrong.
The bad actors can be rival company PR firms. Be careful. I posted before I had the full story, but took it down within minutes. We'll be more careful next time. It's not looking good. Here are the screenshots and build numbers from Reddit user DewShelter1349. Same outfit. Censored. Uh-oh, it looks like Stellar Blade was censored, and you can see the horrifying effects of that censorship there. It's unrecognizable, isn't it? It's like a completely different game now. A little bit more fabric has been added to one of Eve's outfits. But wait, if you can believe it, things get even worse. This is another confirmed outfit censored in Stellar Blade, original on left. We're working on changing...
Dude, I'm telling you right now, if you were to go out in the real world and try to explain to a bus driver this exact predicament, the bus driver would kill you with hammers, okay? Like, if you try to walk outside and explain what happened here in your favorite video game that has 300 outfits, including one that is like entirely naked, getting what you describe as like a First Amendment violation because they added some latex to a latex bra to one of the 300 outfits. That person has the moral responsibility at that point to deal with you. Okay? And, you know, either they would kill you with hammers or immediately call the authorities to 5150 your ass and put you in an involuntary hold because you present a danger to yourself and others around you. And yet this kind of narrative, because of the way that the internet works, can continue to manifest and fester. Wanting nudity in video games is worthy of violence? Yeah, dude, thank you. Thank you for doing the thing that, once again, everybody hates, yourself included. No, I did not say I hate waffles. I said I like pancakes. Okay? That's a whole different sentence that you just came up with on your own. The left is refusing / not able to give any reason to come to their senses, and I challenge us all to look at the irony of inclusivity here. Saying that the sexualization of humanity can't be done ethically is why we're going to lose the next election as well, man. These people need to be brought into the fold, and that requires doing something seemingly impossible. Consensual sexuality being fine and okay from a movement standpoint? Yeah, I think we need lobotomies. I take it back. Nah, gamers got to get lobotomized, dude. Nah, we got to bring back lobotomies, actually. Dude. This is not a political movement, okay? What you are describing is not a political movement. Like, this has no bearing on the election. I hope you understand that. It is akin to saying, I'm a flat earther, and liberals need to actually acknowledge that there is validity to the claims of the flat earth. The right owns sexuality, though? No, they don't. What the fuck are you talking about? Have you met a right-winger? The fuck are you talking about? Not only do they not, but also you're hallucinating and demanding that we subscribe to your hallucinations and act as though they are real. What? I already said I had no idea what's going on. Yeah, you clearly don't if you say stuff like the right owns sexuality. Oof. Not only did you say the right owns sexuality, but also this is why the left will continue losing elections, because I guess they've made a big deal about titties in video games, which is not even a thing. It's not even a real thing. The entire premise of this video that Sean made is to show that it's actually not a real thing. It's a fake outrage. Notice how the title says Stellar Blade, the fake outrage, because it was made up. There was no outrage against it. I played it. Okay. I played it. Great. I looked up at the sky to look at the undercarriage, look at the fucking ass cheeks of the main character. I did that. She was dope. That's not a real thing, okay? This is the problem. The problem is we're currently addressing how the outrage around Stellar Blade was entirely concocted by these fucking weird, sweaty little gross loser perverts. And then instead of people going, what are you talking about? We don't even know what the fuck this is. People just went along with, no, people are actually objectively outraged at this game. And they're very angry at this game. And they want this game to fail. And they just kept leaning further and further into their hallucinations. The problem, this is not a left-right dichotomy. Okay? This is a much larger problem. Left-right dynamics exist in this conversation, but the much more consequential problem is truth versus falsehoods. Okay? People's willingness to believe in falsehoods, as long as it, goes against their as long as it corresponds to their own personal biases that they've developed around their ideology. We're watching people collectively hallucinate, okay? Getting together online at a time when we are increasingly isolated, increasingly alienated, with no sense of community whatsoever. There is no bus driver to check you, okay? That's why I talk about the bus driver test. There's no normal, real human being that actually checks one another at this point. If your only interaction with the outside world is other like-minded individuals that the algorithm shows you, okay, you end up arriving at false conclusions and then seeking out further false narratives that correspond to the false conclusion that you started off with. And at no point do you go, maybe I'm wrong.
Get back. Who are you? It's not about inches of fabric. It's about fighting the double standard and getting Stellar Blade customers what was advertised. Hashtag free Stellar Blade. Now then, I have a lot of things I find funny about this. Number one, it is very funny that Mark Kern decided to talk about all this in the manner of a news reporter breaking a story about Air Force One going missing or something. Like it's a developing situation that we need to be careful how we talk about. Very good. I love that. Secondly, there are outfits in Stellar Blade which are still much more revealing than any of the, quote, censored outfits, which leads me to believe the outfits were not in fact censored and were merely changed in the course of the game's development, something which the Shift Up developers later stated was the case. Also, the scale of these outfits...
Yeah, here's another great example of that, because I remember covering this at the time to make this broader point that a lot of these people are just like deluding themselves into believing in falsehoods, okay? I realize that now there's a shit ton of ableism and reactionary garbage attached to the sexualization thing. Not trying to defend anything. Okay. I don't even know what you mean by that. I don't know how you came to that realization, but listen to the major point here. The point is there was no leftist or liberal outrage towards this fucking game. They concocted it themselves and then believed their own concoctions. It's like if you have a partner, okay, if you have a girlfriend, let's say, okay, and she gets mad at you in the morning and you're like, what the fuck did I do? And she gets mad at you and says, well, you cheated on me in a dream and now it's your problem, okay? Conservative politics, especially in the gamer field, is basically just that. I have hallucinated an alternative reality in which you've done something that's pissing me off. And now it's your fucking fault. Okay? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous mode of existence. And the internet and the way that algorithms work is making it worse. Same thing happened on SNL with Sydney Sweeney. Boobs killed woke. Exactly. But because people never actually breach the boundary of their ideological enemies unless it is directly to combat them in an incredibly uncharitable way. No one actually arrives at this conclusion. No one actually sees the other side's position. And this does not mean that your interlocutors automatically have good points. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. But it's important to understand where they are coming from. What do you think about AOC changing her bio? See, this is what I mean. This person is doing the meme right now. She changed her bio. She changed her description on Twitter years ago, man. Years ago, okay? And I don't know why she did it, but it does not matter. But someone told you it happened overnight. Someone told you it was a direct response to this last election. Everyone is fucking QAnon now. There's something that every single person has a QAnon type belief over, no matter how silly it is. The guy you're covering uses tweets of one dweeb. Why are you saying it as a whole gamer community? Wait, what? Like, bro, the vid you're watching covers one dweeb gamer. Yeah, that one dweeb gamer is basically the figurehead that all these other hundreds of videos that he's shown are getting their markers from. Okay? Like, what do you mean? He also perfectly showed exactly how this kind of false narrative manifests. One fucking dipshit tweets something, it goes viral. A million dipshits on YouTube make YouTube videos. Asmongold watches those YouTube videos and reinforces that narrative. And the only victim in this situation is just the truth. The secondary victim in this situation is all of those fucking dumbasses who believe this as though it is the truth when it's not, and get mad about it. They made a fucking petition at the time over this, by the way, with 95,000 verified signatures. There are still people signing on to this petition to this day. Do you understand how fucking insane that is? I think you guys forgot how insane this was. We watched the videos that people recorded at the time. I couldn't believe it. It's collective hysteria.
outfit changes is so minor. From how Mark Kern's talking about it, you'd think Shift Up swapped Eve from a bikini to a nun's habit or something. So actually, while we talk about this, I'm going to leave a couple of GIFs of these outfit changes on the screen, just so we don't lose perspective on what exactly it is we're talking about here. Next, I think it is completely hilarious that Mark Kern is up in arms about Stellar Blade customers, quote, not getting what was advertised, given that his job is selling skins for a video game that doesn't even exist. And you'd think that he would understand how this sort of thing works, given that he's a game developer himself, remember? For example, Mark, have a look at this. Here's the Ember Twitter account advertising an in-game character skin for purchase, represented by a 3D character model of a cat girl. It's a mock-up because there is no game to put her in yet, of course. The thing is, though, you had already sold access to this skin before, when it was represented by 2D character art. And the earlier version of the skin, which you sold on your website for money, is more revealing than the newer version. Look how much more fire is showing in the earlier version of the skin. You sold this, and then you changed it to be less revealing. So can we get a discourse cycle out of this, maybe? Hashtag free Ember, perhaps? Because this is exactly what you're criticizing Shift Up for doing. Well, it's not exactly the same, I suppose, because their game actually came out, didn't it? Next, I really appreciate that this air-quote censorship controversy came so quickly after the Twitter post which stated the game would not be censored. Shift Up unintentionally caught the anti-woke culture war YouTubers off balance there. They were led into seeing Stellar Blade's uncensored release as a victory over the imaginary woke mob they were pretending were trying to censor the game, but then the game came out, and it was censored. Or at least they thought it was, which turned their fake victory into a real defeat. They built this imaginary woke strawman that was trying to censor Stellar Blade, and then it won. So I'll claim that victory then on behalf of the woke mob. Well done, everyone. We won that one, and we didn't even have to do anything. Congratulations. Now, one of Mark Kern's tweets there talked about changing Stellar Blade back and said hashtag free Stellar Blade. So let's talk about that. You see, in the wake of all this traumatizing news, Mark Kern posted a change.org petition with the aim of getting Shift Up to revert the outfit changes to the versions shown in the game's trailer. And let's read that page together. Stellar Blade is a phenomenal new game that just launched on PlayStation 5 worldwide. But it has a problem. The content has been censored from the original trailer version posted by Sony. We, as gamers, want this content back. We relied on it. We made the game the #1 pre-order worldwide because of it, and this is the true game we want. What do you mean you relied on it? You relied on this. Stellar Blade is more than a game. It's become a cultural beacon for freedom of expression in a time where game publishers like Sony are censoring games more than ever. Stellar Blade was a breath of fresh air, and Gamer rallied behind it because it meant things were changing, getting better, and the voice of creative freedom was ringing loud and clear. Beautiful. Notice here how Mark Kern is avoiding saying that Sony censored the game, because of course he has absolutely no evidence that that is true, so he has to say things like game publishers like Sony are censoring games in general. Talking about creative freedom and freedom of expression is also funny because 1, I didn't see you talking about that when you were sharing edits made to the work of other game designers, and 2, of course the only word out of Shift Up so far is that they wanted to make these changes. They said this is the final version.
Remember when I said narrative overcomes truth? When the actual fucking director of the game came out and was like, what are you guys talking about, dude? We made these decisions on our own. What the fuck are you talking about? They didn't believe the fucking video game developers. They were like, nah, you're lying because you caved to the woke mob. What do you do? What do you fucking do in that situation? It is such an objectively pathetic existence. Only fucking made worse by the fact that these people are hallucinating it. What do you do? And there are literally millions of people like this. Another great example that I'm reminded of is when Asmongold was talking about how Yakuza was going woke or something, not knowing the fucking history of the goddamn franchise at all. I say this as a massive fan of the Yakuza video game franchise, okay? Massive. It's people who don't understand the genre and people with no interest of like, with no interest of like, interrogating or examining the underlying political motivations in a sea of people who are just careless and don't care and only want their version of the world to be the reality. Yeah, Kiryu was a trans ally in Yakuza 3, okay? Many, many years before people even thought about hating on trans people. Same with fucking One Piece. Like, people who are One Piece fans who also have like right-wing opinions blow my fucking mind. Some of the main characters, some of the main heroes in the story are literally trans. The fuck? And they were invented like in 1997. You know what I mean?
Of the game they wanted to make, and you're the one trying to make them change it. Now, Mark Kern had two paths forward at this point. Either he could accept what Shift Up said about not being censored and cut his losses, or he could spiral into delusion and conspiracy theories. I wonder what he did. First, they tried to search ban me. Now they're stopping hashtag FreeStellablade from trending. Who are they supposed to be here, even? Tell me again this is just about some silly video game controversy. These people are very threatened by the normal sexuality that Stellarblade represents. That is definitely the word that comes to mind for all of this. Sign the petition. It's important. It really isn't. You see, even though Shift Up said Stellarblade is not being censored, it is being censored. We just don't know how, and whoever did it is so powerful that they can somehow force Shift Up to lie about being censored, as well as force Twitter to limit Mark Kern's social media reach, all in the name of destroying normal sexuality, represented here, of course, by maybe an inch of fabric on a video game bikini. And sadly, this campaign of censorship didn't stop there. On the 24th of May, patch 1.003 for Stellarblade was released. This patch added new content to the game, including 2 new Kunoichi outfits. Now, even though these outfits were only obtainable after the patch, 1.0 versions of the outfits existed in the game files, and those outfits were slightly different. Do not panic, however. The website freestellarblade.com has a little write-up on the changes and a guide to accessing the original versions of the outfits, and I quote, "The skirt on the Kunoichi nanosuits were lengthened and made more rigid in version 1.003. The skirt's transparency decreased in version 1.003. Changes were made to Eve's body structure from version 1.0 to version 1.003. The Kunoichi nanosuits are available on the disc. To access them, you need to have Roxanne's affinity maxed out, then you would need to up patch to version 1.003. As soon as you load into the game, you should receive a prompt with the rewards. Immediately back out of the game and down patch to avoid save file incompatibility. I just thought I'd give that a signal boost here so we can all get access to the earlier versions of the outfits. It certainly looks worth the effort."
I'm sorry, dude. Your life is so fucking meaningless if this is something that you ever considered even for a moment. Okay? It's meaningless. There is no meaning in your life. There is no glory that you will ever retain. You're done. You're nothing. You're worse than a bottom feeder. You're worse than actual dog shit that someone steps on. It's crazy. How can you be a human being, okay, living in 2024, where man has achieved such impressive feats, overcome nature, built skyscrapers, visited the moon, okay? We have a goddamn international space station up there, okay? And this is what you worry about? Pathetic. Okay? You are a pathetic thing. I have a hard time even acknowledging your sentience. It is shocking. I don't know. This shit black pills me into oblivion. When I see stuff like this, when people take it to this level over such minute differences, it actually hurts my brain. It kills my soul. And I think people come to this with the recognition that it's a little, childish. And that's why they have to slap on this is actually a war against free speech and protecting, war against censorship. And it's actually a free speech argument. Because, like, if your argument was standalone, you wouldn't feel the need to add on these additional identifiers that your conquest is actually something that transcends beyond you being a horny little gremlin. But it's not. I mean, this isn't even horniness. Like, it's so fucking pathetic, dude.
Doesn't it? Now, this patch also added in 2 other outfits for Eve, Midsummer Alice and Midsummer Red Hood. These are 2 variants of 2 of the controversially changed outfits we've been talking about. The Red Hood outfit swaps Eve's undershirt for a body harness and adds thigh-high stockings, and the Alice outfit adds in a bow, a collar, and some lights down the front. So these are new outfits, but they are also clearly iterations on the earlier versions of the supposedly censored outfits that Mark Kern and the Horny Goblins are upset about. Now, this introduced a little awkwardness into the Free Stellar Blade movement. You see, Shift Up added in 2 outfits, which are kinda like the ones we said we wanted, so we could claim that as a win, but also, they didn't uncensor anything that we wanted them to uncensor. These are new outfits, they didn't change the old ones, and all the rest of the outfits we're upset about are still censored, supposedly, so what should we do? FreeStellarBlade.com is very clear about where they stand on the update. Do not accept these outfits as a win. The entire point of this is freedom of artistic expression. There's now 12 outfits that are censored with the latest update. So that's where they are. Mark Kern, however, decided to split with FreeStellarBlade.com and took a rather different approach. We did it! You did it! Hashtag FreeStellarBlade celebrates as Shift Up and Stellar Blade uncensor outfits. Thank you everyone who participated in the 8-step plan and the petition. Please sign the petition, which will now be sent as a gift to Shift Up. Lucky them. So many have helped to make this possible.
This is the peak of American activism, dude. Fucking porn-brained Coomer consumption. That's it. America's got one fucking speed.
This is what
Here, yeah, this is it. This is the truest fucking skit ever told about us.
Europeans think America is like. I wake up at 8 a.m. to the sound of gunshots and violence. Then after that, I have breakfast, an 18-piece fried chicken bucket with a 2-liter bottle of Coke. Then at 9 a.m., I start my daily commute from Los Angeles, California to New York City. Along the way, I drive through intense poverty and homelessness. I will do nothing about it. At 10 a.m., I arrive in New York City. I talk loudly about how great America is. At 11 o'clock, I decide to head down to Miami. At 11:45, I arrive in Miami. This is where I get my tan. After that, I head back to Los Angeles. It's awesome that I'm able to visit all 3 American cities in one day. Around 1 p.m., I go out to eat for lunch. I leave the waiter a large cash tip of $100. At 1:30 p.m., I publicly lean against the wall to rest. Around 3:30 p.m., there's another shooting. At 6 p.m., I have dinner, an entire apple pie that I wash down with a 2-liter of Coca-Cola. Then at 9 p.m. there's an alien invasion. This seems to only happen to the important countries. And that's my day.
Did you know that
You sent a bad link, a broken link.
Everyone worked so very hard. That's right, we did it. Stellar Blade has released 2 new outfits for the game, and that means we win. That's what we were asking for all along, of course, 2 new outfits, and we got them. In my favourite history podcast, The History of Rome, host Mike Duncan has a recurring joke about generals and emperors who would extract themselves from an unwinnable military situation by simply declaring victory and going home, and this is the culture war version of that, basically. Even though 0 of our original concerns were addressed, we won. And the replies to this tweet are quite funny. We've won nothing. The original...
Minute differences. How dare you try to minimize the issue and not realize they're radically different looks, leading to a radically different experience in a game that was paid for. You are victim blaming. Come on. Bait used to be believable, dumbass. I know it's bait because I recognize his fucking name. No person that knows what Anatolia is gonna fucking craft a statement that fucking stupid, sincerely, okay? Also, we don't need believable bait. There's plenty of it, okay?
Censorship is still there, but they've won from your reaction. No, they know they can bribe us and distract us. Your reaction means we've...
What is this? I'm sorry, but this is fucking crazy. She should be bannable.
Denim
Denims talks about you. What did he say?
talks about you. Dude, I only watch Denim's clips offline. Yeah, with my pants off. Yeah, I can't watch those on stream. Yeah, just shouldn't bother.
Same principle as what we were just talking about. Okay? Oh, damn. Someone talked about my sexual assault allegations from former partners. Yeah, I jerk off to them. That's sick. I mean, this is it. There's a lot of people that have this sort of tendency. They need to fucking grow up. Okay?
lost. You are wrong. They added outfits in order to...
This entire video is you know, talking about people that behave this way.
Distract from your real intention, which is that they are actually just keep spitting on the fans by continuing to censor the game diligently. They are insulting the players' intelligence by thinking we wouldn't notice. Look for yourself, we have nothing to celebrate. It only get worse. Discord in the ranks here. Now the latest twist in this tale is that ShiftUp recently went public and posted a job listing for an investor relations manager, one of the duties of which is overseeing the publication of ESG reports. Now you might say, Sean, I don't know what that is, or how it could possibly matter. But no, it does matter, it turns out. ShiftUp sells out and embraces ESG. Stellar Blade is doomed. Stellar Blade developer ShiftUp goes public, will now publish ESG reports. Stellar Blade sells out to ESG, ShiftUp goes public and becomes compromised. And so on and so forth. Also, this news led Mark Kern to rather dramatically declare that ShiftUp has fallen. After going public, they will be required to publish ESG reports. So okay, what the hell are ESG reports? Well, ESG is one of those acronyms, along with DEI, that two online right-wingers have come to see as a synonym for wokeness. It stands for Environmental, Social and Governance, and ESG reports basically detail the environmental and social impact of the practices of the company. Now, I have my own anti-capitalist opinions about the actual point of this sort of thing, of course, but I can relay that the...
You're a content creator, how much of this is farming? I think there's a healthy dose of farming, especially from the content creators that engage in this kind of rage bait. But there is definitely a real audience for it, and it's growing. And that's really fucking scary. And it's not scary because like, ooh, these, misogynistic men are scary. Like, I don't give a fuck. First of all, I'm a man, okay? So it doesn't impact me in the same way. But secondly, it's scary because society is fucking collapsing, okay? I can't stand this level of stupidity and the incompetence and the purposeful ignorance at play here. I hate it. I hate it so much. Could it be that we are so terminally online that we think this is a serious discourse? I don't hear this shit outside at all. No, this is absolutely a terminally online piece of discourse. But there's two different problems here. One, unfortunately, as we become more and more isolated and alienated, things online do have the capacity to impact things in the real world. And last but not least, if online is your only interaction with the outside world, then this does have the capacity to fucking dupe you. And this kind of idiotic hallucinations end up reinforcing a lot of bad behavior and a lot of bad ideals. And in the interest of pursuing this shit, a lot of these losers then make it their lives' mission to endlessly harass video game journalists and the developers that make these fucking video games. Stop saying still on this vid. It's almost done. And it was actually a very fucking informative video. Shut the fuck up. The trolls are purposely weaponizing being naive in the real world. It's mostly people being lazy and just taking information by osmosis. Yes. I mean, you guys saw an example of this that is very close and personal to me. This a version of this cynical, bad faith smear campaign happened with this platform that you're on for the past month. It was completely concocted by bad faith actors with an agenda to undermine the platform with a very specific goal of either unbanning a person that was banned from the platform for good reason or banning me, a person that they have identified as their enemy. And when that couldn't happen, they went after people in my orbit. And then when that didn't happen, they went to other organizations to try and apply even further pressure. They went to advertisers directly. And when that didn't work, they still went along with this narrative that it was actually successful. And in that process, I'm sure there were thousands of people who just go about their day-to-day existence that just took that for granted and will never think about it ever again. But now in their minds, they think, I am an anti-Semitic terrorism lover, and Twitch is defending me because Dan Clancy loves me personally, and that advertisers actually left in droves, and Twitch took a major hit, but they still wanted to protect me because they also are anti-Semitic terrorism lovers. You know, look, there's still people in here that say, ha ha ha, nice accountability. Like this person legitimately probably believes everything that happened in this process, despite the fact that this is why you've fallen off projection. Ha ha ha, nice accountability. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And this is a sock account that they created in October 5th, 2019. Okay. And they've obviously been following for quite a long time and have unfollowed in the process. And followed again as recently as July 15th, 2024. And they're still in here. Some people would much rather believe a lie than dare to interrogate what the truth is and self-reflect. Bro, you are on video. What are you even saying? This is what I mean. There you go. This is it. Accountability. It's always accountability. Gamergate was about ethics in video game journalism. And this last iteration of Gamergate, this like microcosm of Gamergate here, was also, once again, accountability, bringing about accountability to a platform. Like, why are you defending the point of view of the cartel's law? Mexico equals cartels to Hasan. Like, this person is defending Donald Trump's possible moves of bombing Mexico or invading Mexico to, destroy the cartels or whatever. So they're at least Trump adjacent. Okay. And here, in the very same breath, a day later or 2 days later, they're talking about accountability. You are on video saying the dumbest shit every day. Brother, for most normal people, and I can't stress this enough, they do not see the world in the way that you see it. I know it's virtually impossible for you to comprehend this, but most people in the real world actually are diametrically opposed to your way of understanding the world. Okay? If your framework revolves around defending Israel, you are, unfortunately for you, the minority. You are the overwhelming majority of Congress, but you are the minority in even American society. Defending Israel, Trump adjacent. Okay, what's your perspective then? What a phrase. It's impossible for you to comprehend accountability. I used to think you were an intellectual. Okay, what's your... Now I know is pseudo. You moved on from one person that you thought was an intellectual, me, to another person that you think is an intellectual because you have no opinion for yourself. Okay, you hopped around. Explain to me what your worldview is. Why were you defending Donald Trump's policy of potentially sending SEAL Team 6 into Mexico? My worldview is that you're an idiot. Exactly. Exactly. That's it. That's what's that's the point. I know. That's why you're a dumbass. You have no genuine politics. You have no genuine interest in anything. You've been overcome. You've been overwhelmed with hatred. Why would you openly admit that about yourself? I'm asking you, trying to have a normal conversation with you, asking you what your personal politics are. And your personal politics is that I'm wrong and that I'm stupid. That's not real politics, you fucking moron. You have lost your humanity. You basically have lost any sort of comprehension. You are simply a pawn for another content creator who doesn't even know you exist. Okay? You're in here trying to fight his battles. Your viewers are pawns, dumbass. Again, I will ask you one more time. Why are you defending Israel or Donald Trump's policies of invading Mexico or engaging with the cartel in a violent manner, thinking that this will be a successful way to combat drug trafficking in this country? This is the worst part of parasocial relations, man. I know. Go take some Fent. Do everyone a favor. Buddy, between you and I, who do you think is closer to the verge of suicide? The guy with a fucking sock account titled Twitch Viewer 05978, who's been following me since 2021 and crying in here? Or the Twitch streamer that he's watching? I'm crying so hard, we can tell. Anyway. We'll get back to you when you have a coherent thought that is individually, a coherent thought that you came up with on your own, okay?
Nominal point of this sort of thing is to attract socially conscious investors.
I know where that kind of hatred comes from, okay? I've been angry and vulnerable in the past myself. I know where you're coming from. I know what it feels like when you are desperately looking for a sense of community online. Okay? But the moment that you absolutely fucking despise a Twitch streamer, okay, a dumbass Twitch streamer like myself, to such a degree that you are in the chat like trying to wage intellectual battles in your mind to feel a sense of humanity, to feel a sense of recognition that you have lost in your own personal life, is a moment where you are diving deeper and deeper into the sadness, the pit of despair. I want what's best for you, okay? I promise. You pulled me up, dumbass, intellectual battles. Oh my God. All right, well, I hope you get better. Let's finish this video now.
Invest in us not just because we're a good financial investment, but because we are good for society, that sort of thing. Of course, even the mildest corporate overture towards any sort of social responsibility is read as Marxist infiltration by the sorts of people who see Marxist infiltration everywhere they look. And so Shift Up hiring someone whose job will be, in part, to publish ESG reports is seen as necessarily compromising. They have caught the woke mind virus, in other words. Alas, they were supposed to save our culture with their video game bikini ladies, but it turns out that was probably just a really strange thing to expect. Something that jumped out at me watching dozens and dozens of horrible videos over the course of making this horrible video was how few of these video game commentator channels seem to be run by people who actually play the games they're talking about. I saw a lot of people not just talking about how great Stellar Blade is without having played it, but talking about Hades without having played it, Baldur's Gate without having played it, and so on. Like, I didn't play Hades, and I have no plans to play Hades 2, but I'm outraged about these Hades character designs, and, like, why? Well, we know why, don't we? People like Mark Kern and the YouTubers who make these videos are outraged tourists. They don't really care about what they're talking about, they just want attention. And something happened quite late in the production of this video which illustrates this point rather nicely, which is a little annoying as I now have to add this part you're hearing right now into an already long video, but on the other hand, it is a good example. So on the 20th of August, Mark Kern posted the following tweet about an upcoming game in the Monster Hunter series, Monster Hunter Wilds. And he says, "What happened to Capcom? From Monster Hunter World to Monster Hunter Wilds." And then he posts 2 pictures comparing 2 seemingly random characters from those 2 games. The Handler from 2018's Monster Hunter Worlds, and a new character called Olivia, shown here in a frame from the 3rd trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds, which was also released on the 20th of August. The intent here was obviously to get another "they're turning the beautiful ladies into ugly ladies" discourse cycle started, but this one was thankfully killed before it got off the ground. Monster Hunter fans ruthlessly mocked Kern and his silly cherry-picking until he was forced to delete the tweet. Kern then posted another tweet about Monster Hunter Wilds saying, "Took down the Capcom tweet, Monster Hunter Wilds is safe, my bad," and he attaches a picture of Gemma, another
Bro, so much of this is just fucking fake outrage. That's the greatest antidote, though. Other fucking vicious nerds being like, "You better shut your fucking bitch ass up. I love Capcom games. They never miss. Fuck you." Asman believed this shit? No, dude, he didn't, okay? He believed the fucking 1.5 million views that he accrued on his YouTube channel from believing this shit. That's what he believed. Come on. Come on, dude. Jesus Christ.
Monster Hunter Wilds character, who he apparently does find attractive. Good for him. But Kern has accidentally revealed something here. You see, Gemma was shown in the first Monster Hunter Wilds trailer, which was released back in May. Any Monster Hunter fan paying attention to Monster Hunter Wilds would already be aware of this character, so Kern doesn't know what he's talking about here clearly. But even worse, Gemma also shows up in the 3rd trailer, the one featuring Olivia, the character Mark Kern was complaining about in his tweet, so he must not have seen it. He's only seen this screenshot. So it's not just that Mark Kern isn't some big Monster Hunter fan, he hasn't even seen the trailer that he's complaining about. Kern and the outraged tourist YouTubers like to complain that their hobby has been infiltrated by fake fans.
Listen, as long as your audience does not care about the truth and they only want a comfortable hug box, which is ironic because many people project and say that that is my audience, okay? It doesn't matter. You will never get punished for being wrong. How many people yelled at drama farmers that were like, Hasan was wrong about the Al Ahli hospital being bombed by Israel, when everything that Israel said subsequently after, before bombing every other fucking hospital in Gaza, okay, came out to be completely false? How many people punished those guys? No one. 0. The answer is 0, because those guys were not interested in Israel or Palestine. They were interested in fuck Hasan content. Do you understand? So for a lot of these people, they have no well-established opinions. They have no interest in what's going on. They're just in it for the battle, okay? They're in it for the blood sport. They've decided someone is the fucking enemy, and that person needs to be humiliated at every step. And they also don't understand, just like that one chatter that I was talking to earlier. Like, they don't understand why normal people don't respond to these endless fucking maniacal smear campaigns, not just against myself, but against like these video games and shit too. Do you not understand? They literally are so firmly grounded in a falsehood, in a false narrative, that they can't comprehend why most people in the real world don't give a fuck. They don't understand when their narrative that they've developed in a hug box is not reflected by the majority population in the real world. That's the problem. They get worked up, and even when the thing that they got worked up over doesn't actually follow through when there's no actual material gain to be made, they just move on to other things or decide we won anyway. It was actually a victory nonetheless. That's the reason why that dumbass Dan Saltman, who's now fucking actually Dan can't stream on Twitch for, you know, doxing people and shit, was running around being like, I actually took away hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue from Hasan. What have you guys done? I saw that. Like, he was doing victory laps. It's like, I don't like running ads anyway, dumbass. The fuck do you mean? Oh, I'm suffering so much. No, he said 3 to 4 million. That's hilarious. I refuse to take on advertisers that I don't want to get money from. I deny advertisers to the tune of $1 million specifically for the election night coverage. If I cared about like farming higher amounts of revenues, I wouldn't work with fucking American made union shops when I'm doing my merchandise. I just go to fucking China. Okay, I go to Indonesia. If I cared about farming as hard as these fucking delusional losers care about it, I would take on any advertiser that wants to pay me. Okay, I don't need it. So you push them while not getting paid? What do you mean? The point is, not only am I principled in this circumstance, but also when the narrative fails, okay? When the narrative fails, they just move on and they try to like derive a victory from some other place where they're like, no, we still got a victory here. Loberg literally laughed at you for getting cucked on ad revenue on your contract. I know. He showed you run a lot of ads by posting a proof of how many times ads are mentioned in the chat. Yeah, of course ads are mentioned a lot in my chat because we gamified the advertising when I had a contract that forced me to run the minimum amount of ads that I could, okay, which was 4 minutes. And in the process, before Twitch told me I can't say it any longer, I used to tell people to use an ad blocker to avoid seeing those ads. That's what's so funny about this process, that like, people max out on the 22 minutes of ads an hour on this fucking platform. Nobody says a goddamn thing, and they run it periodically or randomly. I wanted to do it in a way where it wasn't as disruptive and that people could fucking not see the ads. Just show this to the haters. Yeah, I mean, this is a fucking silly flex too. Like, yeah, I have a lot of subscribers. I mean, that number will go down next month after the election, okay? It will. But it still doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, I used to tell people to use a VPN or an ad blocker to avoid seeing the ads. I work in advertising with accounts that spend millions per month. We don't care what delusional internet nerds think. I know. Oh. Can we get this guy off stream? No. All right.
But that's all projection. It's them. They're the ones pretending to be fans of video games for attention on the internet. Now, it wouldn't really be right for me to armchair psychoanalyze people based on just a few tweets or YouTube videos, of course. But if I was going to, watching a lot of these videos, I'd say I saw a lot of people who seem to have lost their passion for their hobby. They've got bored, but they aren't moving on. And this is a thing that happens sometimes. Someone was into a thing when they were young and carefree, but now they're older and more cynical, and they're not really having fun anymore. But instead of moving on and trying something new, they get angry. This thing is part of my identity. It's not that my earlier appreciation for the thing was that I was excited about having new experiences. It's that the thing was good, and now it's bad. So someone ruined it, and I'm gonna moan at whoever I reckon that was. What a lot of these commentators seemed to want from Stellar Blade was for it to take them back to the good old days, before all this politics and wokeness, a simpler time where you could leave your door unlocked, and you couldn't move for video game bikini ladies. This is of course just the video game version of the standard conservative nostalgia for a past that doesn't really exist. You know, the world was a brighter, happier place back when I was an actual child and didn't have to pay rent or know about wars. What a coincidence. For any of these people who are watching this video and have actually stuck around to the end, which I seriously doubt, I'm going to do a bit of a selfless public service right now and go back over what we've talked about today and explain what was actually happening. Okay, so first of all, individual video game journalists are not generally in the business of trying to destroy video games. Reporting on video games is how they get paid, after all. They might call certain games or gaming tropes bad, but that's just their own opinion as critics and reviewers. They're not trying to hurt you. It's got nothing to do with you, in fact. They're actually trying to make games better, according to their opinion of what better is anyway, but that's not to spite you. Again, it's got nothing to do with you. That's just what their opinion is. Next, big mainstream video game journalism outlets are not generally in the business of trying to destroy video games, especially video games from big publishers like Sony. They make money from running ads on content related to game releases. IGN, for instance, makes guides and videos about Stellar Blade. That's part of how they make money. For this reason, mainstream journalism outlets actually tend to be rather generous with review scores for big game releases, because publishers pay to advertise on their platforms, so they have an incentive to stay on friendly terms with the publishers. And of course, if a mainstream journalism outlet was trying to destroy a video game, they wouldn't bury that attempt in an otherwise positive demo preview on a single foreign language website, would they? Next, if a video game company does censor violent or sexual content, it is vastly more likely that decision is being motivated by getting particular ratings from media ratings agencies, rather than anything to do with some amorphous idea of wokeness, i.e. it's mostly being driven.
I just keyed on to why you're particularly proud that your merch is made in the US and some creators' merch, Teddy Fresh for example, was claiming to be ethical and sustainable, see made in China, it's a subtle diss. You're out of your fucking mind if you think that this has anything to do with Ethan Klein, brother. Are you insane? No, my merchandise has always been made in America by union hands, far before I even knew who Ethan Klein was, okay? Get the fuck out of here. No, it is not a sneak diss at all.
By older, socially conservative people.
Yeah, my entire worldview is actually a sneak diss of Ethan Klein. That's why I'm fucking pro-union labor. to sneak this Ethan Klein. The fuck? Come on, guys. Please. Stop obsessing over Ethan Klein. Please. It's unhealthy, okay? It really is. It really is.
And capitalist financial incentives, not blue-haired feminists on the internet. If some ratings agency says you need to tone down the violence or sex or change the blood to be green or whatever, or you don't get to release in our country and therefore potentially lose profits,
I mean, you knew who he was, but you hadn't met him yet. I feel like annoying people will call you a liar. Yes, I meant I hadn't met him yet, okay? I knew him as the Vape Nash guy, and I did not know what his brand was at that time. My mistake. I know that if I'm not hyper specific on every little thing that I say, there's an army of little gremlins. There's an army of little gremlins out there that are just like going to clip everything to be like, oh, see, he did this is a sneak diss. I think they were literally like covering me reading a chat to make it seem like I was actually saying something about Ethan the other day. It's fucking nuts.
Companies will do it.
Please,
but that's got shit all to do
let's
with
be done
wokeness.
talking about Ethan.
And that's the next point, of course. There wasn't some big woke mob push to ban or censor Stellar Blade. A couple of journalists criticised some aspects of the character designs in the game, because it's their job to give their opinions about video games, and that is the full extent of what actually happened there. The narrative about the woke mob coming for sexy ladies in video games used to be built on cherry-picking and misrepresentation, only watching very particular sentences of Anita Sarkeesian videos and the likes, but today it's more like an ancient superstition or something. We are long past the point where that argument was centre stage now. The industry and the discourse are both moving on. The woke mob isn't coming to try and take Stellar Blade away, because, to be blunt, Stellar Blade's character designs don't really matter all that much. The argument really was about a lack of diversity in character designs, and Stellar Blade's style of character design just isn't as prominent and overrepresented as it once was. This isn't a two-sided culture war battle anymore, if indeed it ever was. It's the Outrage tourists versus their own imaginations. Next, I have a note about concepts of attractiveness here. Now, this goes beyond the remit of talking about video games, of course, but watching all these videos, I heard a lot of talk that was very obviously coming from people who just assumed that they were the default type of person, and that only people who are like them play video games, and furthermore, that any attempt to appeal to people who are not exactly like them must be some evil scheme or other. I heard a lot of gamers want this is what gamers want to see, when what they really mean is, this is what I want to see.
Yeah.
It's a very basic point, but there is a much wider range of what people...
I think the inherent irony of this kind of fucking, this kind of cause championing is that, like, they get mad because they think, like, video game companies are making decisions specifically on the virtues of diversity to appeal to a different demographic, and they want themselves represented more. Like, they're doing the same thing. They're like, oh, well, I want anti-woke representation. Please, what the fuck? Why are you doing woke representation? I want anti-woke representation. When in fact, like, gaming companies don't give a fuck about woke representation all that much either. They just care about making money. That's the only thing they care about. That's precisely the reason why games are dog shit. Or I wouldn't even say games are dog shit, because I think this past year had a litany of sick ass games, well reflected in the award season representation right now.
People are attracted.
With one exception, 5 Hearts Under One Roof. That game not being represented as the greatest game this year, it was a snub, and I'm sick and tired of avoiding it. Okay? It's a real fucking snub, dude.
To than what you're attracted to or what you see as the default. There are people who are attracted to a whole range of appearances, body types, fashions, whatever else, and some of them are even attracted to that part of the range that is more traditionally considered to be unattractive, something which a lot of the people whose videos I was watching could probably stand to appreciate a little more, shall we say. Also, when you see big corporations diversify their products and publish reports about the social impact of their activities and market their products to multiple target demographics, do you know why they do that? It's to make money. Big corporations aren't trying to usher in some Marxist takeover of society. Unfortunately, they're trying to get paid, so they market their products to appeal to a wide variety of people. What you see as going woke is, when it comes to big corporations, mostly just a profit-motivated diversification.
Yep.
They want diverse demographics to feel included, sure, but that's because they want to sell products to those people. There's no need to go on the hunt for the shadowy Marxist puppet masters pulling the strings of society when actually the things that you're annoyed about are being caused by boring old capitalist economic incentives. The right are in kind of an awkward spot here because of course they can't say they think capitalism is bad, but also they hate diversity. So if a profit-motivated capitalist corporation diversifies its products to target a wider audience, they're kind of in a bind. They can't call that out for what it actually is, so they have to sub in the spectre of communism and blame that instead. Not to go off on another tangent right at the end here, but I guess part of the issue is that the right see capitalism as something close to human nature, the system that best reflects humans at their default. And I suppose if you believe that, and also you're socially conservative, you'd expect capitalism to produce products that were narrowly targeted towards each type of person, and those products to be consumed by that type of person. And of course, the gamers we've been talking about today thought that video games fulfilled that role for them. So faced with inclusive media featuring a diverse cast of characters targeted at a wide range of different people and that media being successful, that's a challenge to the whole conservative worldview right there. Probably even more so in the cases where the diversity is merely profit-motivated tokenism, because that communicates that even the cynical capitalists have calculated that enough people like diversity to justify making diverse products. If there was more money in producing only regressive, non-inclusive, narrowly targeted content, they'd be doing it, but since they're not, that means the conservatives must either be wrong about people or wrong about capitalism. But that can't be true, so enter the cultural Marxist puppet masters perverting the true course of history or whatever. Now,
all the bad things about capitalism are actually secretly communism is such a common take. I know. It's just the classic dumb guy opinion.
The annoying thing here is that this push to make products that appeal to different demographics is one of the more benign economic incentives driving corporate decision-making. But some other economic incentives really are hurting gaming. Right now, a lot of gaming conservatives have the strange idea that if a game or gaming company or journalism outfit fails, it's only because it's gone woke. This is a worldview sustained with a constant regimen of confirmation bias where all examples that don't work are either ignored or attributed to conspiracy theories. But in truth, it often doesn't matter how well things are doing. You can have the most profitable or critically acclaimed gaming company or website in the world, and it can still be destroyed from the top down by finance people who care more about the next quarter's profits than any sort of long-term sustainability. We've seen companies broken up, sold for parts, the employees all fired or poorly replaced by air quotes AI. We've seen games ruined by pay-to-win mechanics, arbitrary microtransactions, and other predatory monetization schemes. We've seen CEO payouts skyrocket while their employees, the ones who actually make the games, can get laid off at a moment's notice. These are the actual things that are hurting the games industry. Anyway, I'll wrap up today with a message to Mark Kern. So, Mark, you can't just hitch your culture war wagon to whatever new game is passing by and expect that to reset media back to how you thought it was 30 years ago. Obviously, it's not going to happen. It's not possible. And if you think I'm wrong there, and it is possible for a video game to do that, you are supposedly a video game developer. You are allegedly making a video game, if you can remember. So why don't you be the change you want to see in the world? Listen to the people who, for some reason that I do not understand, actually still look forward to Ember. If all you do is react in the culture war, you lose. You're not going to get anywhere by just complaining about how the tide is turning against you. You need to create your own things, and not just for silly culture war reasons. You have taken a lot of money off people with assurances that you would make a video game. But Crumbs is much too busy, of course. You see, Subnautica 2 has some characters who aren't white in the trailer. He doesn't like the new Tomb Raider cartoon. The next Assassin's Creed game has a black character in it. Hephaestus from Hades 2 is in a wheelchair. Oh, we did this one. Just the same old rubbish over and over again. The grift economy grinds on, and poor old Stellar Blade, once the centre of attention, is now all but forgotten, as all these new grifts will be too in time, to be replaced.
Okay, we didn't spend that much time on this.
With newer, equally pointless ones. Each piece of media being examined with fickle and fleeting attention, scanned at the surface level solely for the purpose of sorting it into one of two categories, the sole determinant of worth: woke or unwoke. What a shallow and frustrating way of engaging with art, using up your limited time on the earth to experience it. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching today, folks, and thank you especially to all of my supporters over on Patreon. Patreon supporters get early access to all my videos, so if that's something that interests you, I'll leave a link in the description for you to check out. Okay, that's all from me today, folks. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bro, I took a nap and came back and it was still playing. I took a nap. Time to visit Grand Canyon. We're not going to do Grand yet. Jesus Christ. Y'all are fucking crazy. That was a banger.